Hey, welcome to the Amputate to Elevate Success podcast, where we have bold conversations with bold leaders, those who've had to let go of something in order to rise into something even greater. I'm John Register, two-time and two-sport Paralympic athlete, silver medalist, combat Army veteran, Hall of Fame speaker, and founder of the Elevate Life Executive Series on Beehive. After an injury in the U.S. Army led to the amputation of my left leg, I discovered that the real transformation didn't come from overcoming adversity. It came from amputating the fear, the doubt, and the ego that held me back. This show is all about that, helping leaders in high stakes transitions amputate what no longer is serving them, serving you, so that you can elevate to your highest part of your communication, your impact, and your legacy. Whether you're navigating a career shift, launching a new vision, or simply trying to lead with more clarity, these stories are your toolkit. So do me a favor, do me a solid, like, share, follow. This conversation might be the catalyst that someone in your circle, in your network, in your sphere of influence that they need right now. And today, get ready, because you're about to meet a force of nature. My guest is Simi Adeagbo, a true pioneer. She's the first African and Black woman to compete in the skeleton at the Winter Olympics, a former Nike executive who led billion-dollar global product lines, a Yale World Fellow, an Obama leader, and the visionary behind Simi Slays, her platform dedicated to breaking barriers and slaying limits. You get that, slay? Simi didn't just blaze trails, she melted the ice while doing it. We're diving into how she left corporate success to chase legacy, how she's navigated fear with grace, and what she's amputating next to rise even higher. So stay locked in. We'll begin right after this. Simi, what's up? I'm so glad that you are on. Thank you for being here.
For having me. I'm so excited for our conversation today.
Absolutely. So my first question for you, you've done a lot of stuff in your life. We'll get into that. But what have you had to amputate in order to elevate to your success?
To mind is having to amputate a prestigious career or prestige in what some of the world would define as a successful career. I had to amputate that and define career and success on my own terms. So I think that would be what I've had to amputate most to get to where I am.
So you're saying amputate prestige? Help me out. Help me understand that a little bit more.
Yeah, or maybe another way of saying it is I've had to amputate the world's idea of what success is and define success for myself. So I say prestige because I come from a very illustrious corporate background. I worked biggest companies and well-known companies in the world and had a great 10+ years, doing it with the best of the best as a marketeer in the sports industry. And I had an awesome business card that could get me anywhere I wanted to get to. And I had to kind of amputate the idea of, just living someone else's dream and being part of someone else's big corporate machine, which was awesome. And I learned a lot from, but kind of defining success on my own terms and being brave enough to blaze a trail on my own terms, even though the prestige of that big company doesn't come with that all the time. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think there are many times when we are in a situation where the job or the corporation or whatever we're doing, we've really outgrown it. And so it could be you got the big card and the big expense account, but you're not fulfilled anymore. And so you have to, lay that down, even though you might be stepping into something that is not going to be as prestigious as that, and have to elevate in a different way. And you found, as we said in the show intro, first Black woman, first African to find skeleton. Tell us what skeleton's all about, and how did you wind up doing that, and what did you see that attracted you to that crazy sport?
Yes. So for those who don't know, skeleton is that sport that you see in the Winter Olympics every 4 years, where athletes are laying down on their tummy on something that looks like a tea tray. And we are going head first down this giant ice track at speeds of about 80 miles an hour. And you're navigating these massive twists and turns, and just going on this thrilling ride for about a minute or so. And you have to use all of the different body parts, your shoulders, your head, your knees, to steer this sled. And so, this was a sport that I didn't know much about up until I made Olympic history back in 2018 at the Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games. And I wasn't necessarily drawn originally to skeleton, even though skeleton ended up being the vehicle to something much bigger. I was drawn to the idea of making history for my country, for Nigeria. And the fact that when you look at the Winter Olympic landscape, we know that it's dominated by North American countries, European countries, and the continent of Africa has very little representation. And so when I started learning more about the lack of representation at the Winter Olympics, I felt I could do something about it. And for me, it was not only about this pursuit of becoming an Olympic athlete, which has always been a dream of mine growing up, but a bigger opportunity to be a change maker and show what was possible for someone coming from the continent of Africa, a place where there's no snow, no ice. We don't have the facilities to do these type of sports, but I really wanted to show that it was possible to do the improbable. And so I went on this journey to explore the sport of skeleton, which led me to making Olympic history and becoming Nigeria's first Winter Olympian. So that's skeleton in a nutshell, and the wild journey that I went on to make history at the games.
I mean, that's solid. Going, from where you were an athlete, a great triple jump athlete at Kentucky, and now you have the build for it. And you get on this thing. You're going down head first. You're the first person from the continent of Africa on your belly, down 80 miles an hour, head first. And I just that is. So I have an appreciation for it because I slid. I did bobsled for a hot minute on Mount Van Hoevenberg out there and I said no,
Lake
I'm not
Placid.
doing that. Lake Placid, not doing that. No. I said, Lord Jesus, if you just get me off this sled, off this mountain, I will never do anything like this again in my life. I was so beat up.
Yeah.
After that season, I'm like, oof.
Yeah.
But I want you to talk about that, because I don't think what people understand is you didn't get in this sport early in the game. You came in later after you had done your track season, right? And had been All-American there, and I mean, talk about how difficult this sport is, because you're taking some hits.
Oh, yes, definitely. So, I mean, I was a four-time All-American at the University of Kentucky. So triple jump was always my original Olympic dream. I thought I was going to be a summer Olympian. I thought it was going to be sunshine and sand. And that was what I originally pictured. And I did try out a couple times for the Olympic Games for the summer route, but I came really close, but that didn't quite work out. And I actually had moved on with life. I had been in the corporate world. I just was focused on different things. And a whole decade had passed. So 10 years later, I started kind of learning more about this lack of representation at the Winter Olympics, and thought that there could be something that I could take action on. And so when this opportunity of skeleton came about, it was a sport that I didn't know anything about, and I had to start from scratch, from ground zero. The good news is there are some transferable skills. So you need to be strong, powerful, fast. And those were skills that I took over from my track and field career. But remember, a whole decade had passed, and I was essentially a couch potato. And so I had to get off of my couch
But weight
and,
makes you go down
get
the hill,
myself
doesn't
back
it?
into shape. It can help. It can help. But I essentially had to, literally get up off the couch and rediscover, reignite that athlete that was still within me. People always say, wow, that like is amazing. And, I think a lot of times people don't think you can do things later in life. When I started that journey to my first Olympic Games, I was 36 years old and learning a completely new sport. And as you said, terrifying to a lot of people. You take a lot of hard hits because that's the only way you can learn in the sport. There's no like easy kind of like progression. You really start from day one at those high speeds, learning how to drive a sled. And that involves taking a lot of hard hits because that's when you learn what not to do. And so we fail fast. And because of that, that helps accelerate our learning. And so my whole Olympic journey, the first time around, took place in about 100 days or so. So I went from the couch to picking up a sled, and about 100 days later, I was in Pyeongchang, South Korea, making Olympic history. So it was really a whirlwind, but I think just taking those steps, those first steps to say, I want to do something here about this opportunity that I see, and going from there.
So we're talking with Simi Adeagbo, and first Black woman, first Nigerian, first African to be in the Winter Olympic Games. Just an incredible story. You said something, Simi, that I wanted, because we're talking to our executive leaders right now. And it's a couple things you said. Number one, you fail fast is one of the things you said. And the second thing you said was you started later in the game. And I want you to speak to somebody who might be having a career transition now that's later on in their game, later on in their life. And how can they, move through this time period with the same skill sets and transferable skills that you showed, moving from track and field to bobsled, or from the corporate America to the bobsled, but the skeleton in your capacity?
Yeah, I would say you just have to start from somewhere. Sometimes people get really overwhelmed with making these type of pivots because it seems overwhelming. And I think that, yes, definitely the Olympics was always my bigger goal, but I broke that down into smaller kind of micro goals. So for example, the very first time I went down the track, I didn't know what to expect. I was so terrified, but I set one simple goal, and that was simply to not scream. I said to myself, you don't want to be the crazy African woman in this sport amongst all these other countries and you be the one screaming down the track. So if you just can keep it together and not scream, that run will be a success. And I made that simple goal. Now, the technicalities of if the run was great or not, we don't have to get into that. But I achieved the goal that I set out to achieve. And every day since then, I've reset another goal. So I walk into every training session with a goal in mind, and I tried to achieve that. And that helps me continue to move forward. So I would say for me, that was the biggest thing, especially starting later in life at a sport that I was told at the time takes 8 years for somebody to really master that skill to reach the Olympic level. And I looked at my calendar, it was November, the Olympics were February. I didn't have 8 years, but I had, what can I do every day to get closer to that goal? And that's really what I focused on. And with each day, I felt that I took a step closer in the right direction. And before I knew it, that big bad elephant of the Olympic Games that didn't seem like it was probable at the beginning started becoming more and more realistic the closer I got. So I would just say, don't focus so much on sometimes the overwhelming kind of big goals. I love the big hairy goals and audacious goals, but I think for me, what's worked is really focusing on the everyday execution of that goal and those micro goals that get to the bigger goal. So that's one of the ways that I think I've managed it and managed that transition, especially later in life, when sometimes it's a bigger risk when you take that kind of change later in life, but it all pays off in the end. Just got to execute every day.
So there are some transferable skills for those that are, more seasoned and maybe moving and shifting careers. It's not that you didn't have any skill on the previous job or whatever you're going into. You've had those skills, and now it's time to transfer it over. And you did a great job transferring over as well when you were with, leading the $1 billion product launches and brand campaigns across continents. Nike Women and of Africa platform. What's the most transferable skill between like elite products and building elite people?
Oh, wow. I think it's the same, really. It's that you have to like really know the product, just like you know the people. So, anytime we started kind of building a product line, we started with first, your consumer. Who are you serving? What do they need and want? And when you're building elite people, you also have to know who you're serving, whether that's yourself, knowing what do you want? What are the opportunities there? So really kind of doing that SWOT analysis, whether you're dealing with product or people, you have to know the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats, and be very real with that. And once you identify that, then you can figure out that game plan to get to market. So when we're building that product line, we have our targets for each of the seasons to reach, like you said, that $1 million, whatever it is. And we know we have 18 months to get to market. What are the milestones that we need to achieve in that 18 months? Who do we also need to bring along? Because nothing happens in isolation. So that is something that I've transferred from the corporate world to the athlete world and the Olympic world. As much as you can have the drive, you can have the determination and the focus. It helps to have a magnificent team that's helping you get there. So you need to build a product. People have no idea what goes into that, from the designing, the developer, the engineering, the person who's looking at each shoelace and knows that we need the 6-cent pair of shoelace versus the 10-cent pair. So the pricing to make sure you're hitting your margin. Then you have to bring along the sales team to make sure we can sell it into retail. There's so many components. And of course, the marketing team who's going to create that demand, talk to the consumers and get the messaging right. So I would say that when you're investing in people too, you have to know what that team around looks like. Who are the right players that are going to support that individual to help them get to their marketplace or whatever their goal is. And so just identifying what that team looks like, and also knowing kind of that roadmap is another thing that I feel like I've learned from the corporate world. That roadmap is really helpful, that structure that you need to identify the milestones, the gates and dates to ultimately get to your goal. So, yeah.
So I thank you for that. I like how you juxtapose those two together. When I was with Team USA and on the staff, I built a couple programs for Olympians, Paralympians going to the games. One was flag etiquette, and the other one I participate on was managing the ripples of disturbance, so distractions that happen. And so I find a lot of people, I call those hurdles because I was a hurdler in college and ran at the Olympic trials and the hurdles, and a lot of times we're running those hurdles and we're distracted by other things, and that can cause catastrophe if we become distracted. So you're a Yale fellow, Obama leader, you're playing in rare air of global influence. You discern which doors, well, let me ask it this way. How do you discern which doors are legacy building and which ones are distractions for you?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So for example, you're saying that you saw an opportunity to become the first because there was no one from Africa in these winter sports. And of course not,
Yeah.
because there's no snow, obviously. And so now other European countries, they can just kind of take over if they say they're the best because they got snow. And so you kind of help prove otherwise. So again, the question is, how do you discern which doors are legacy building and which ones are just distractions?
Yeah, I think you first have to be clear on the legacy, right? What legacy are you building? And that seems like a no-brainer, but a lot of people are just jumping in and they're not clear on that. So I think early on in my journey, especially after my first Olympics, as I mentioned, it kind of happened in the course of 100 days. And so as I've been working towards my second Olympic Games, I really had to get clear on my purpose and why I was doing what I was doing. And that for me has been directly connected to the legacy that I'm building. So I took the time to really uncover the why. What is my why? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Because sometimes as athletes or sometimes in the corporate world, we get tired, we lack motivation. When we get up every day, we're not always feeling, like we have that fire underneath us to do what we need to do to get to our goals.
Yeah, that's
But
for
once
sure.
you're clear on the why are you, yeah, exactly. But once you're clear on the why are you doing what you're doing, that really helps to really wake up every day purposefully. So I uncovered that through just kind of working with my mental performance coach and really listing down all the list of like, why am I doing this? And we went through a list of 30 plus things that I wrote down, everything from the pizza at the Olympic Village tastes great to wanting to inspire the world to, I did like the pizza in Pyeongchang. But as we talked about it more and more, what emerged was that I have unfinished business as an athlete, and I want to make sure that I see my full potential unlocked. And it starts with me, and then it extends to we. Because if that full potential within me, that fire that's burning as an athlete, to make sure every ounce of every part of my being is unleashed and unlock that potential, then it's going to extend to the we. And through that, it's going to inspire others to dream without limits. And so once that really was clear to me, every day I wake up with that motivation and wanting to build that legacy. So I start on that higher level of understanding what is my why and the legacy that I want to build. Then recently I've been doing some work on, okay, then what is it going to take to make sure that I'm prioritizing the things that I need to do to build just that. And so I've recently gone through some exercising around identifying what my rocks are. And some people may have heard of this exercise where you have a jar and you need to make sure that you're filling it with the things that matter to you most, like identifying your 4 to 5 big rocks before you then put in the sand or the pebbles around it. And so that is an exercise that I've gone through. So like now I know for me what that looks like. So family, faith. I also have the work that I do philanthropically that is connected to my legacy. And then of course, the big component of what I do as an athlete. So when I look at my time and my calendar, those are the 4 things that I try to really prioritize and focus on, because that is legacy building: my faith, my family, my philanthropy, and my athleticism. And so that then helps me then break that down on a smaller level, day to day. How am I serving those 4 things?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I've approached it and tried to avoid distractions with that focus on that 4.
And did that help you when you went to your second games? And tell us a little bit about that journey and the results, because the first time you only had like an inch to get down the track, and now you're there with a full 4 years under your belt.
Yeah, so in less than 200 days, I have to be which are in Milano Cortina, Italy, the 2026 Winter Olympic Games. And so that's really what I'm pushing hard for and driving towards in less than 200 days from now. I am now focused on bobsled instead of transition to that sport. And I'm looking to make more history, not only as a two-time Olympian, but also a two-sport Olympian, which is very rare as well. So it's been a journey because I went to the Olympics first in 2018. Then I tried again in 2022 to reach the Beijing Games, but I was the first one out. I missed it by just a spot, and that was really devastating. But I use that to fuel now this run up to the 2026 Games, and in less than 200 days, hopefully we'll be there.
Yeah, but now you're enclosed. You're driving a sled.
Yes,
you're driving
yes.
a sled, not laying on a
Yes.
on a tray.
Exactly. Now I can
no
actually sit
no
up and
86s,
see.
no 86s. This means tip overs,
What do
y'all.
you know about that?
I know about that. 86 means tip overs, y'all. You know, then you're going down the track like this on your side. We don't want that. All the safety that we have for you.
Yes.
So I want to talk. You mentioned a little bit about the legacy. Talk to us about Simi Slays. We intro that in the show, and I have one more question for you after that.
Sure. Yeah. So the Simi Slays Foundation is a nonprofit organization that I founded, and we are focused on empowering women and girls through sport. A lot of this comes from the journey I've been on as an athlete, as a female athlete, and also what I've learned in the corporate world as an executive, just understanding the power of sport and how you can apply that to empowering women and girls around the world. So we focus on how we can support elite female athletes within the Olympic and Paralympic movement, where we have a grant program for them to help with their training expenses and also empower them through leadership skills and other kind of critical support skills. And then we have another program that focuses on adolescent girls between the ages of 13 and 17. And we really take the skills that you learn through sport, but translate those to leadership and life skills. And we teach them things like communication, teamwork, and other important skills. And so far we have reached 1,000 girls through our programming. And that's been wonderful worldwide. And yes, and we've dispersed $100,000 to female athletes around the world to help them reach their goals. So it's really rewarding work to know that sport continues to, empower girls in such valuable ways. And so for us, this is like helping close the gender equality gap. And it's something that is such an important thing. And we're seeing a lot of momentum right now around women in sports. And so we're proud to be on the forefront, doing this every day on the front lines, and something we're really proud of. So if anybody out there wants to support women in sport, visit us, www.simislaysfoundation.org, and help us help empower more women and girls through sport.
I love it. I have a 12-year-old granddaughter who's about to turn 13, so she's about to get in there. And I have another 14-year-old granddaughter about to turn 15, so she's in there. And then my daughter is about to marry a Nigerian man, and then so we're going down there right now to have their the baby shower in Dallas, Texas. So I can't wait for that this weekend. So we have another girl coming in the family. So I have nothing but girls for granddaughters. So we got to get them into the foundation of Simi Slays Foundation so that they can elevate and be more successful in sport, because I want them all in sports. That's for sure. My daughter and I, we do the women's basketball. Every year we've done it. Well, we had to take a break for it after she started working. But all through high school, all four of them that we did. So that was powerful. Oh no, I don't have you on the thing. What happened?
Your browser has lost connection to your camera. Make sure you have the
Uh,
right camera
no,
selected.
no.
What's going on?
See if it comes back in.
Okay. That's weird. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you just fine. So I'll just
I'm
finish
not
it.
sure
Oh, there you go.
why.
It started to come back,
Okay.
and I can cut it too. So.
That's so weird. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I don't know. I'm trying to get back on it. It's not okay. There, that will have to do. Sorry
Okay,
about
so
that.
that's all right. It's all good. I'll just cut that out. All right. So my final question is this: we started off with what you have to amputate in order to elevate to your success. Think about 10 years from now where you are. You've been successful. You're a gold medalist in the Olympic Games, wherever that is that you think you are, in the one-man bobsleigh. And so, what do you have to amputate now in order to reach that goal, whatever it is in the future?
Oh gosh. Oh. Hmm. Gosh. I still think it's other people's expectations, and maybe that's just something I'm more aware of. But I think, you know, I consider myself to be a trailblazer. And I didn't always consider myself to be a trailblazer until I kind of started going down this Olympic path. And I realized how much courage and how much determination and drive that takes. And that's why there's not many of us out here, change makers, trailblazers. But I think there's more of us out here than we realize. And sometimes, because we hold on to other people's expectations of who we should be or where we should be going, we lose sight of blazing our own trails, and the power that we have to be change makers and create our own unique path. And so I think it will always be on my radar to amputate everybody else's expectations and really continue to look inside and really be clear on that North Star for me and continue to follow that.
I love it. We have been on with the incredible Olympian Simi Adeagbo. Thank you so much for being on with us today. And stand for a couple seconds about to close the show out. What an incredible conversation with Simi, a woman who didn't just break barriers, she redefined the blueprint. From her Olympic run down the skeleton track to leading billion-dollar brands at Nike to launching a movement that empowers others to slay without limits. Simi reminded us that possibility is the birthplace of power, but it requires bold decisions to amputate the fear that keeps us playing small. Simi, thank you so much for your courage, your clarity, and you're modeling what a legacy in motion really looks like. To all of you listening, now look, if something stirred in you today, and I'm sure that it did, don't let it stop here. Like, share, and follow. And make sure you subscribe at johnregister.beehive.com to get the full breakdown and bonus insights from this episode. And while you're there, register for the upcoming Elevate Life Executive Strategy Session, a focused, high-performance call for leaders who are navigating change and want to elevate through it. This is where we move from inspiration to action. Seats are limited and momentum waits for no one. And for those of you joining me in San Diego at the AB show this November, November 2nd, I'm staying an extra day to host a private executive mastermind for just 5 leaders, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. 4 or 5 leaders ready to sharpen their messaging and expand their influence. That's November 3rd, 8 to 1 o'clock p.m. If you're serious about going deeper, you're going to want to be in the room and have your face in the place. My name again is John Register, reminding you that resilience isn't about bouncing back. It's about leaping forward. Until next time, go forth, inspire your world. Bye for now.